learnt a lot in the first album. The second album, we didn't have to start from the beginning with trying to find the right sounds and how to translate the old MIDI programs into the new software and the new domain. So that took a lot of time off the overall process. And even though we had the global pandemic, we found workarounds to try and still work remotely. So there were times that we could absolutely keep operating as if we were sitting side by side, and we weren't. So we didn't let the pandemic slow us down. It made us work harder, and we were able to keep going. So all of that added to a much quicker turnaround to get this final result.
So I provide the studio, I provide the MIDI programs, and I am also responsible for singing all the voices. Unless we're recording a vocal, because Craig's got it all in hand, I'm basically a glorified tea lady, and I make sure that Craig's got enough coffee or tea, whatever he wants.
This is Tim's album. It is absolutely wholeheartedly Tim's album. Tim's role is the musician. He has created all of this work, and he is the heart and soul behind it. So obviously without Tim, there would be none of this. I am the translation tool between Tim's mind and Tim's brain into the real world.
Craig provides that magic touch with his expertise that holds the whole thing together and makes it a lot more than just viable.
Let me go to that precious promised land. No more left, no more right. Lift your head and see the light.
Cosmetically, I've had the entire place redecorated and got this beautiful carpet on the floor, acoustic panels to ensure the reverberation is cut down to a minimum. In terms of the technical equipment, yes, we've added new near-field monitor speakers, the Focal speakers there. They're just amazing speakers. There's two devices. There's the Dangerous Music D-Box Plus and the other Duvalaki, the analog to digital, digital to analog converter that works with it. And I'm going to let Craig explain about that, because I feel like as if I own a Formula One racing car and Craig is my driver, because I can only drive a Morris Minor.
We've got these wonderful Focal shaped twin speakers, which have a really great depth and clarity to them, really good stereo imaging and soundstage. So that's really changed the way I hear things, and I'm able to translate and make better mix decisions. Paired with that, we upgraded our monitoring signal path as well, and our overall interface. The combination of the new RME interface and the Dangerous Music D-Box Plus is amazing. There's a lot of technicality that goes into making high-end gear, and we didn't want to compromise on any part of that for fear of missing crucial information that, you know, is vital to make the right decisions. It brought a depth back that was just, it was obvious that we were missing it previously, but until you hear the difference, you don't know what you're missing. So that is a really great tool to have at our disposal, and it's just meant that I'm able to make better decisions across the mix and mastering stage.
Each of us, Craig and I, in our separate ways, we're more hands-on with more areas in our particular roles. I've provided a lot more vocal work on this album than on the first album. Craig has got far more tools that we've added to the studio.
My role is the engineer, whether it be mixing, mastering, videography, photography, artwork, putting it up on the website.
I taught myself how to program on a standalone MIDI unit. It was the Roland MC500, and then at some later stage I upgraded to the MC500 Mark II, which no longer had a quarter of a meg of memory, it had 4 meg. Oh dear, this is enormous. So that was like a big deal at that time. That then led us eventually to a place where we were able to program in a bass and drums and a few little other bits and bobs to accompany the performer as he's performing. And because I was doing a solo show, this for me was a great boon.
Tim spent years and hours upon hours and hundreds of hours as a performer and musician previously, programming a lot of MIDI backing tracks that he played live concerts around the Melbourne Jewish community and, you know, some international gigs as well. And so he had all of those MIDI backing tracks at his disposal and didn't want them to just sit as ones and zeros on a computer. So it was my job to basically take all of that and translate it into newer, more realistic sounding instruments.
It was the most wonderful gift to me that the Jewish community in Melbourne had not yet been exposed to one person being able to represent him or herself as an entire orchestra. So I climbed up on stage and presented this enormously full, rich, complete sound with just one little bloke on stage playing the keyboard. From amongst the people in the community who were booking us, we were eventually booked by people from the observant community. For those people, for those clients, it's not good enough to sing Hava Nagila and hope for the best. You know, what are you doing? It's not our music. So they've got their own New York Black Coat Top 40, if you will. And so instead of names like the Beatles, the Stones, Michael Jackson, whatever it might be, they've got Avram Fried, Mordechai Ben David, Israel Williger, Shlomo Simcha. Again, I had to set to and start programming these arrangements. This was a brand new style for me, and I found it quite a challenge to begin with, but gradually I started more and more to understand and relate to the style I was programming. It's led to a situation where these 3 albums are a showcase for much of the programming, the orchestral arrangements that I did for the observant community here. And as an orchestral arranger and a MIDI programmer, I feel that this is probably my finest work that I've ever done. And so I wanted to make a recording project of it so that it wouldn't be lost.
How did it come into being? Tim programmed it all.
For the second album, I was able to use a Korg VC10 original genuine vocoder. Now, what the heck's that? You get this sort of robot-y kind of, you better put your love on me.
And had to go in and get repaired. It's an old piece of equipment. These things break down over time and do need to be maintained. Being able to use an old vintage hardware vocoder as opposed to something from inside the computer definitely gives a much better sound at the end of the day. The old hardware gear is irreplaceable. It's all well and good to program something on a computer, but to actually play it and talk into it, that speaks volumes and can't be replicated in a digital system.
We were very happy to feature a mini Moog, and on the last track I was able to use some of my recorders. I've got a whole consort of recorders. I used a tenor recorder, and I also used actually both of the basses. I've got a curved bass and a straight bass. That was replacing a clarinet part that I'd programmed, and I thought, you know what, the clarinet part sounds nice, but this would be a good opportunity to add a real organic instrument. So that's what I did.
The recorder. It's a recorder. You play it in primary school badly. And then as you get older, you still play it badly. Tim loves his recorders. He's got many that I have to unfortunately look at on a weekly basis. And he's been pressuring to put a recorder on any album, and I've been resisting as much as I possibly could. I finally gave in for the last track on album number 2, and I'm happy with where it is. I've tried to bury it as much as possible underneath everything else, but yes, I gave in. And it works in this instance. Album number 3, no, not going to happen.
It was a straightforward process, but it was a lot of work for Craig and for me. He had to put up with me going la 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 90 times.
Could we fit 90 people in this room? Yeah, it'd be pretty squishy, and you'd want to be friends with everyone. But we didn't have to do that. We had Tim, and Tim did it all.
I climbed up to the microphone and sang it 90 times myself. I'm able to sing high and low, so I was able to cover the spectrum. Let me think. No, I still remained a man throughout.